Before I dressed the stone, I wanted to check all of the keep strips and gibs because I'd put this thing together but I'd never adjusted it. So I've done that now, spent some time on that, and I'm just checking it for true this way and this way, X and Y if you like. So when I look at this way, you can see that dial's not moving. Well, you know, it's okay, isn't it? I think. But when we go this way, ignore the bump. Look at this. Now that's a worry, isn't it? So if it was just wear, you might expect there to be a dip in the middle or something like that, you know. But this looks as if the table is actually tapered. So I'm going to have to look into that at some point. I mean, if you've got an idea why that is, just tell me. I can't imagine that it would have worn in such a way, because it's linear all the way across, look. But this way, as I say, appears to be fine. That's a bit of a setback, really. But to be honest with you, I'm probably not going to be doing precision grinding. I might well just be using it for sharpening tools, and in fact that's the first thing I'm going to try, is to sharpen some chisels and things like that, and a plain blade. Hold on, I'm not thinking this through, am I? It's this surface that matters. So, if you just ignore the jump, well, okay, that's a lot closer then, isn't it? I still don't understand why the table would be tapered, but hey ho. Now, the problem is I can't dress this on this grinder because there isn't enough travel. And people did say, forgotten the chap's name now, machine shop at the bottom of the garden maybe, said he'd bought a smaller vise. Maybe that's something to look into, I don't know. Again, this may be accurate enough for what I'm trying to do. Vacuum cleaner set up in the old Abwood from the Shaper. Got to remember, don't forget I'm a beginner. Raise the table, and then it must be this way, I suppose. And remembering not to this way. Get that in about the middle then. Slightly nervous, here goes. I haven't started this in weeks and weeks, and certainly not with the stone on. Here goes. Sounds smooth enough, doesn't it? Just touched, I think. I can see the dust going into the vacuum. I can't hear it though. Oh, I can now. I can see the stone going white at the periphery. I'm probably being a bit too cautious, but it's just that. All right, now we're cutting right across. Can you actually see anything? Hold on. Righty. Okay, I think this is going to be it. I'll get the stone off and see if it'll balance now. Good. So this is unbalanced now. If I move it this way, this is to show that it's actually a bit out of balance. So it's rolling towards me. And if I start from this side, it should roll away from me. It should roll away from me. There we go. So yeah, it's out of balance. So even if this, you know, isn't absolutely perfectly level, the fact that it's rolled, you know, this way and then this way shows that it's out of balance. So I need to note the low spot, the heavy spot, and this must be the light side. We'll try with a screw. I've no idea how much it's going to take to balance this. To make this more interesting, I should talk it up like the football commentators do. He's putting the screw in. The screw is in. It's going in now. I listened to, I watched the England play last night, and the commentator said, what was it? They're under pressure, but pressure is for tyres, and they're young and they can take it. I mean, what's that supposed to mean? I mean, it sounded exciting. Right. Do you know, I think that might be it. Yeah, 2 6mm grubs. Okay, good. It might be very slightly off, look, but it's very close. Now that position is nowhere near the screws I've just put in, and it's not opposite either. You know, when you're doing shots like this, you've just got to keep an eye on what's in the background, because you can show things unintentionally. Nothing to worry about, but this spanner's interesting. It's got a very thin, it's very long and thin. Let's get it on shot. Very long and thin, and it's got a very thin wall here, so it's ever so useful for adjusting up gib strips and things like that. It's a 7/16, I'm sure. Yeah, 7/16. I got it from my dad. Her brand, USA. So I need to look that up and find out what is her brand. I'm sure you won't see it, but take my word for it. Right folks, this is it. The first ever proper job on the grinder. Something simple, grinding a chisel, 25 degrees. I've got it on the Vivor tilting table. I've got this Groz drill vise, and we'll give it a go. Let's not grind the vacuum cleaner pipe. I've set it just a little bit lower. So if this is going this way, I suppose I have to feed it from this side. Oh, forgot to do the vacuum. Hang on. One thou at a time. The vacuum's missing the sparks, isn't it? Well, hopefully it's getting the dust. I can see it cleaning up. It's cleaning up. I'll show you when I've finished. I'm happy with that. Problem with heat, as you can see, could do with some spray coolant. I was only doing 1 thou cuts at a time. Now there was a concern that because the motor's running from a static converter, that it could be unbalanced, and then the unbalanced phases could give me a ripple on this. But I find that if you finish just with 1 cut pass and don't move the table back across the stone, it'll give you a very nice finish. So I'm quite happy now to put the machine into its final position. The reason it's been standing out here for so long, away from the wall, is if I'd had to fit an inverter, I'd have been, having to take the motor off again and having to move the machine. So that's why it's out from the wall like this. I'm very pleased with that. Well, we're almost there with this, but don't go yet. I've got a couple of things to do. I've got to move the machine back into the corner, There's a display light that I had on the electrical panel down here. I didn't drill the hole for it. It's the one that tells me whether the capacitor for the starter is switched in or out. I didn't drill it because I didn't want to spoil the panel if I was going to have to change over to the inverter, and I wouldn't have needed that, so I'll fit that now. Now, because this machine is has a total loss oiler, in other words, it just chucks it all on the floor, I wanted to find a tray to go underneath it, and I looked all over the place. I looked at drip trays. They were too expensive and they were too deep. I was going to be tripping over it. I looked at metal trays, far too expensive, right? Now, it's not because I'm mean, it's not because I'm a moaner, as somebody suggested I might be. It's just because I want value. Anyway, I've got a great tip for you. Here it is. What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? Well, believe it or not, it's a dog tray. Okay, now this dog tray was £12 and it's big. Look, can you see how big it is? Now, it's the tray that sits in the bottom of a dog cage. Now, the dogs get in, they chew them, they do whatever they do. So you can buy replacement trays, and you can get them anything from Great Dane size down to Chihuahua size. So that, I don't know, there's loads of sizes, 6 or 7 sizes. So this was from Pets at Home, which is a pet store in the UK, it's a chain. And there's one quite locally, and honestly, I couldn't believe it. And it's strong, and it's got quite a low lip on it. So it's perfect, it's just perfect for putting under a machine. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll put you a clip in at the end with this machine in place. But I have to say, finally, you'll be pleased to know that the Herbert Junior Surface Grinder Mark II series is officially complete. The indicator light's now fitted to the panel, but I also wanted to look at the LED driver on this machine, the one I'd fitted to power the work light. Now, as somebody pointed out, the driver needs to be an isolating type, because if it isn't, you could get a fault where the electronics break down in the driver and it causes the voltage to the light to become line voltage, which is 240 volts here. So whilst I've got all this apart, I've taken the driver apart, and I can see a transformer here, and that suggests to me that it is fully isolating. But when I look at the information on the driver, this stuff, there's nothing that actually tells me so. And for the sake of the cost, so they start at about £3.50. For the sake of the cost, I thought I'd buy one which clearly says that it's isolating, and it needs to say SELV. SELV means separated extra low voltage. So this is what's going on now, and this is where it says SELV. I am cursed with the electricals on this machine. You see this? So that's the indicator LED that tells me if the capacitor's in or out, the start capacitor. And I put this piece of tube over the wire to protect the wire. Now what's happened is, this is obviously a bit stiff, and it's pulled the LED out. So, has it broken? Has it just pulled away? What has happened? Let's figure that out now. Take the panel off again. All done, just need to test it. So, this light should come on after a short delay, after I start the machine, and that'll show that the relay has come across and dropped out the start capacitor. Good. And I'm glad we took the opportunity to change that LED driver. I think it was safe, but just to be sure, because early checkout by electrocution is not on my bucket list. Well, this is the big day. That tray size, by the way, is Labrador, just so you know. I looked for smaller ones. It's a bit too long really, but I looked for shorter ones, but they weren't wide enough. I'm hoping with the rollers that I've got on that tray, I might be able to move this back without using the hoist. The front roller is metal, the back two are more like heavy duty conduit in plastic. I might have to do this privately because I don't want to be embarrassed if it all goes wrong. I want to make sure I don't crack that leading edge of the tray. I just had a tipping experience that I didn't like very much. If I do this though, look, it will just tip forward. Oh, this is frightening. There we are, right, and if it doesn't roll away, it weighs about 1/4 of a ton, this, in anybody's measurement scheme. Being crushed to death by a falling surface grinder is not on my bucket list either. So I think we'll just play it safe. And at least take the weight on this so that it can't topple. I've moved the steel roller on the tray forward, so it's this side of the balance point hopefully, and then I can perhaps push it back before it comes off the front roller, so it'll cause it to tip back with a bit of luck. There it goes, and it should then miss the lip. Hey, 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 hey. Is that it? All right at the moment, eh? Finally, I'm happy with the position of this grinder. Now the trick was, I've raised this cupboard 2.5 inches so the spark box goes underneath. I've put rollers under my lathe and I've moved it 5 inches that way. I've moved that cupboard, which is next to it, along a bit as well. I've got this right into the corner. I've made more space for my welder to go in here, but actually I might just move this welding table a little bit towards me, a couple of inches. I got this strop, dirty thing that it is, scruffy, from the person who delivered my shaper, left it for me. It's been extremely useful. So again, that rule, never throw anything away. Looks good, doesn't it, eh? Perfect. Well, thank you if you watched the series. I hope you enjoyed it. It's taken a lot of work to get this done, but I'm really pleased with it now. But I've decided I'm never going to buy another machine. Ever. But you've got all that space in the workshop annex. No, absolutely not. Ever, never, never, never.